So welcome everyone to Psalms for Life, in which we explore a different chapter of Sefer Tehillim each week. And this week we are up to Psalm 32, which is the second Psalm in Tikkun Haklali. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the class, of the series, that we will be pausing during this time when we come up to a psalm, a chapter of Psalms that's in Tikkun Haklali, to discuss Tikkun Haklali. So I'm going to begin by telling you a story. In the town of Teplik, while Reb Nosson was the leader of the Breslov followers, there was a man named Fivel, a simple Jew. And Fivel would wake up in the middle of the night for Tikkun Hatzot, which many of you know what that is. And he would say Tikkun Hatzot, which is the midnight lamentations, in which we join our own sorrow to the sorrow of the destruction for the loss of the Beit HaMikdash and for our galut, for our exile. And he would sit and sob, and then he was done. And he would become so light after this experience. He would dance for joy and sing Ashreinu Mah Tov Chelkeinu, Umanayim Goraleinu, Uma Yafa Yerushatenu, which means, happy are we, how goodly is our portion, how pleasant is our lot, and how beautiful our inheritance. And this comes from the morning prayers. It's in your Siddur, and it's right before the section where we say the first early morning Shema. So what would happen is he would be so moved and happy that he would run around town singing Ashreinu, Ashreinu. Some of you know that there are two Breslov melodies to this. There's a more modern melody, and then there's Reb Nosson's very sweet, lovely melody. And he would run around singing this, and he became known as Fivel Ashreinu. Okay. So what would happen is that people, he was a loved person, but they didn't take him so seriously because he was always happy. Okay. So Reb Nosson would come to town, and he would sit with Fivel and talk to him. He was very fond of him. And one time he came to Teplik, and Fivel didn't rush up to greet him. And he asked the townsfolk, "Where is Reb Fivel?" And they said, "Oh, he was nifter. He passed away last week." And they said, and you mean Fivel Ashreinu, right? And he said, Fivel Ashreinu. And he looked at them because they were saying it in kind of a little bit of a mocking way. And so he said to them something, excuse me, I'm going to interrupt. Naomi, I'm letting in the iPhones because, and the phone numbers, okay, I'm just letting them in, thank you, because they keep being removed and they're part of the class. Okay, so he said, you're mocking him. You shouldn't mock him, because I'll tell you why. When we go up to Hashamayim after 120 years, what happens is whatever we've done down on earth, that's what we're going to be doing up there. And what Fivel is going to be doing up there is dancing and singing Ashreinu. How happy, how fortunate are we? So this is a very beautiful story that illustrates the everlasting, eternal effects of being joyful, okay, being happy. Now, when we think of Tikkun Haklali, we often think of, as we're taught, and correctly so, that Tikkun Haklali is a tikkun for sins of very serious sins of immorality, and also universal sins and transgressions and all the things everybody does today in this world to mess up, some more serious than others. And we also know that the effect of transgression is depression. Transgression leads to depression, and depression leads to transgression. And this becomes a vicious cycle. Okay. So when we think of Tikkun Haklali, we are taught that it is a remedy, a universal remedy for whatever ails you in terms of transgression, in terms of doing the wrong thing, okay? And that these 10 Psalms unlock the power of teshuvah, of being able to return to Hashem. But very essential to this formula is the idea that these 10 Psalms are also at the same time simultaneously able to bring about happiness when we say them. Now, I will tell you that Rebbe Nachman, I mean, if you've been in previous classes with me on Tikkun Haklali, you were at the last class when we did Psalm 16 on Tikkun Haklali. I don't necessarily want to go over that material. You're welcome to review it. But essentially, Rebbe Nachman did say that when you go to say Tikkun Haklali, a Yetzer Hara is going to attack you. Very big. The Yetzer Hara does not want you saying Tikkun Haklali, especially every day. And the reason is because when you say it, subtle and sometimes not so subtle changes occur in the neshama. And because of the teshuvah that it brings, the tikkun, the reparation and rehabilitation and healing that it brings, and therefore the Yetzer Hara doesn't want that to happen, because he doesn't want you to be happy. Even more, perhaps, than he doesn't want you to be pure and free of transgression, he doesn't want you to be happy. Because when you're happy, you are able to serve Hashem, to live a life in closeness to Hashem that you aren't when you're unhappy. Happiness, joy, is impossible without faith and vice versa. You have to have both, emunah and simcha. Because if you are living life and you're a good Jew, and I know all of you are, and you're all doing the right things, and you're giving a lot of tzedakah, and you're lighting Shabbat candles, and you're trying to be kind and not listen to Lashon Hara, and so on and so forth. If you're doing all that and it feels like a burden, and it feels like a suffering, and it feels like you got to complain about it, even to yourself, and you're not happy, then there is a barrier between you and Hashem, because Hashem gives us life. And it's the greatest gift, the baseline great gift of all. And if we are unhappy, it's like a slap in the face, God forbid, to Hashem. You know, this has all happened to you, okay? One way or the other, where you've given a gift to someone and it wasn't exactly the right gift. And they had a choice. They could either tell you, this isn't the right gift. I really appreciate it. I love you for it. Would you mind if I exchanged it? And they could say that with love and happiness. Or they could say, how could you get me this? Ugh, I don't want it. Or they could say, thank you so much for this gift. And you could see they don't like it. Or they could be genuinely happy and genuinely grateful, even if they don't like the gift. Because why? You gave it to them. You, their friend, their mother, their sister, their daughter. Okay. You gave it to them. And so when someone responds with just appreciation, and they say, and they express, or they express silently through their love, their big hug to you for giving this gift, and they say, wow, thank you for this gift. If you gave it to me, I know it's valuable, and I know that you chose it with me in mind, and I know that you care about me, and giving me this gift shows this. So if we're serving Hashem, and if we're doing our best, but we're unhappy, it is putting up a barrier. It is not a complete connection to Hashem, because it's like saying, yeah, you gave me this gift, but it's hard and I don't like it. And Ashreinu Mah Tov Chelkeinu, that's for the other people. For me, I don't feel Ashreinu. Okay, I don't feel that we are fortunate, that I am fortunate, that I am happy. So part of what Tikkun Haklali does is it helps by helping to rectify the transgressions and even the dust of the transgressions, even the little tiny things. It frees up our neshama and it enables us to be happier. And this is why the Yetzer Hara attacks. Now, what I would like to do, okay, is to tell you that Psalm 32, which I'm just going to very briefly mention here, and then I want to get back to something about the happiness. Rebbe Nachman explained that this psalm is very significant, and you can learn about it in Likutei Moharan 205, if you like. Okay. So this psalm, Psalm 32, has expressions in it that are some of the types of songs, the 10 types of songs. We'll talk about that next time we do Tikkun Haklali, God willing. And it says that this psalm ends with a concept of joy, which is about taking joy in Hashem and shouting for joy. And this shows us, this is why I wanted to do happiness, especially today with this connection. This shows us that Rebbe Nachman is giving us messages through the words of this psalm, that happiness is something that we have to proactively grab a hold of and work towards. Now, I am going to briefly, I'm not going to go into every single detail because it's quite complex, but I want to share with you briefly I'm sorry, somebody's texting me that they can't get into the room, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Okay, so I want to share with you briefly a little bit of one of Reb Noson's lessons from Likutei Halachot, okay, on Tikkun Haklali and happiness. So Reb Noson explains that when we look at the chart of the Sefirot, and for those of you who are in the body and soul class, you know that's what we're working on right now, and that class is Tuesdays at 12:30 New York time. It's also on YouTube, okay, like the recordings. So we have the right side, which is loving kindness, it's chesed. We have the left side, which is gevura and din, which is strength and restraint and judgment. And then we have the middle, okay, which is tiferes or tiferet, which is harmony, and it is harmony and truth and beauty, because it is a joining together, a melding of loving kindness, chesed, and gevura, restraint and judgment. Because we can't go through life with one pole or the other. If we do, it will lead to unhappiness. How? If you have only judgment and restriction and strength and restraint, you won't enjoy your life. That's obvious. But if you have only chesed and loving kindness, which means that you don't exercise due caution, you don't pay attention to the fences around the Torah, you're going to be led to even, perhaps, in some cases, a lower place, okay, than the restraint and the judgment, because everything will become permissible to you, and you'll shower your generosity and your kindness in the wrong places and accept it from the wrong places. So we have to have these two things balanced. So we could say like this: chesed on the right side is mercy and giving, and the left side is holding back and a judgment, and the confluence is Tiferet is compassion. Compassion is actually not mercy. It's a blend of mercy and good judgment. Now, Reb Nosson explains that the concept of sound, okay, la, 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 we're not talking about music yet, but just la, sound, includes all these three categories: the right side, the left side, and the blend in the middle. And the sound that he is talking about, and I'm going to give you a brief explanation, is the initial sound, the direct sound, such as a sound of me saying something. Then there is the echo or the resonance, the sound that comes back to us. And then there is a blend of all three sounds. And you see where I'm going with this, okay? We have the same way that the three Sphirot the sides of the Sephirotic chart are represented, and we have the three types of sound, okay? Now, just for your own information, when we say something, okay, we make a sound and it goes out there, and we have this resonance or this echo coming back to us. What we need to understand is that wherever we are, we always have that. I think unless you're in like a vacuum, even if you're just sitting in your house, there is a slight resonance. So we are always hearing pretty much the third aspect of sound, which is this blend of all three sounds. Now, these three sounds, okay, these three sounds, or these three types of sound, actually are revealed, not only completely included in the 10 Sefirot, but also revealed in the 10 types of song that are in Tikkun Haklali. So Tikkun Haklali contains 10 categories of song. Rebbe Nachman mentions these categories in a slightly different setup than the Zohar HaKodesh does, but it's basically the same. Song, the root of song, okay, actually begins not on the right side, the side of Chesed, which is that initial sound, but actually the left, because of the returning sound. Why? Because song music requires resonance. Anybody who's familiar with any kind of instrument at all, especially string instruments, okay, knows about, or even the drum knows about resonance, okay? So song, the root of song itself, nigun, melody, shir, okay, all of this really comes from the left side. And the 10 kinds of song actually begin the process of repair The Tikkun Haklali begins its process of repair from this place. The left side is the side of judgment. And it's the side, and I hope you're still all with me here, it's the side of the klipot, okay, the husks, the waste matter left over from creation that is an energy. There are a lot of different energies, but energetic forces that constantly are ready to cling to us and attack us, especially the klipa of despair and sadness. Okay, when we engage in song, specifically psalms, specifically Tikkun Haklali, and we say it, what we are doing is we are initiating a sifting process. Now, what is this sifting process? It turns you into a composer. Okay, why? So many of you know Azamra, where Rebbe Nachman speaks about this. I can recommend that you look this up and look at Tamar on 282 for yourselves. But Rebbe Nachman explains that in order to make music, song included, we need to choose. We need to choose good from bad, good notes from bad notes. When you sit down to play the piano, okay, to sing a song, to play the violin, whatever it is you play or hum along to or whatever, you are aiming to only express out the good notes, and you're leaving all the potential negative notes that are going to create dissonance, you're leaving them behind by the wayside. Those are the klipot. Okay, it's not just a metaphor. This really is an energetic connection. Okay, so what happens is when you choose the good notes and you're expressing them, you are leaving behind the bad, and you're lifting yourself up to the blend of the direct sound and the chesed and the resonance and the echo from where you started, the side of judgment. And you're now having this blend, which is that compassion that I described before. Tiferet also gets called harmony and beauty and truth, okay? Because that's what harmony is. Pleasant sounds are a blend of that initial direct voice or note, the sifting that must occur during the echo or the resonance, the feedback note or the feedback sound, and then we blend them together by doing this process, and we end up with this harmonious whole. And on a simple level, this makes sense musicologically, okay? On a spiritual level, this makes sense if we refer back to the sphirot that I mentioned before. And what this has the effect of is when we start aligning ourselves and expressing beauty, harmony, truth, tiferet, okay, rachamim, which is, I'm going to use that word for right now to describe compassion, which is that blend of judicious, intelligent, yet loving expression of one's self, one's choices, and so on. We end up lighter with happiness, like Fivel Ashreinu, the beginning of this little talk here. So happiness is a result of going through this process. Now, in truth, 99.99% of us say Tikkun Haklali. If we're very committed, we are able to pay attention to at least a certain percentage of the plain meaning of the words we're saying, if we're very committed. And maybe with one or two kavanot you have for one verse here or one word there. If we're fortunate, I can't tell you, in all honesty, how many times I pick up my Tikkun Haklali and I say it, and I get to Kuf Hey, Psalm 105, which is almost done, and I realize I haven't even concentrated. The good news is you don't have to worry about it, because just the mere saying of these words has the power to bring into balance and harmony the direct note, the first note, and the resonant note, and join them together. It has the power to sift out the bad. So let's just talk briefly about the direct note, and then we'll go to our Psalms for the day. The direct note is essentially the first of the 10 utterances with which Hashem created everything, created creation. And that is Bereshit. Okay, Bereshit was not expressed as anything other than the hidden and first direct note or direct sound. Bereshit, in the beginning, okay, that's how it begins. In the beginning, Bereshit, actually, I just want to find my source here, 1 second, is considered one of the 10 sayings, even though it doesn't say, and he said, and Hashem said, okay? Because Bereshit is the first direct sound of chesed, pure the right side. And all the other sounds, okay, all the other sounds are not the direct voice of Hashem. They're filtered down. And the reason is because if Hashem created everything with Bereshit only, the flow and intensity of all that loving kindness could end up being destructive. Just as I mentioned before, on our own very human, personal level, if we only put forth and take in chesed, that's all we take in, and that's all we give out, and that's all we lead and rule our lives by, we can be destroyed by it. It can become a destructive force. It's like the first blast of a power hose. Okay, the water itself is good. The energy is great, but it can knock you over. Okay, now that's just a little overview of this part, this idea of happiness in Tikkun Haklali. Next time, when we get to the next psalm in Tikkun Haklali, we will discuss in Tikkun Haklali, when we go through Psalms for Life, we'll discuss more. But now what we're going to do is we are going to say the Psalms. We're going to say Tikkun Haklali. We're going to say the Psalms for the day first together, because it's good to say them together, since that's what we've been doing. And the Psalms for today, which is the 20th of Av, are Psalms 97 through 103. And I'm going to tell you the segula for these Psalms. Okay, so somebody asked, they missed the segula. And I think you mean for Psalm 32, and that's because we didn't actually cover Psalm 32 today. We're not going to say it. We were speaking about Tikkun Haklali, but for your reference, it's a psalm for helping find a shidduch and asking for Hashem's mercy, okay, which makes sense in light of our conversation. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you the segulot for Psalms 97 through 103. And we're going to say those Psalms, and then we're going to say the 10 Psalms, okay, which I'll give you. If you can't stay for all of this, please finish the recitation of Psalms so you can get the benefit from it of having said it as a group. Also, if you would like, you can type in names of people who need a Refuah Sheleimah, okay? Anybody who needs a Refuah Sheleimah, you can type in those names below and in the chat. And all you have to do is go down to the bottom of your screen, click on chat, or it might be on the side of your screen, and start typing in names. And okay, so we have a name, Jordana Finkelstein, Rachel Batzara. I'm not going to read the names out loud because it's going to be a long list. It usually is. I'm going to ask everyone to take a look at those names, or keep in mind that we're saying this for Refuah Sheleimah for these people. I am going to put the name. Oops, that didn't come in. Let me know. Okay, and let me give you this segulot. Psalm 97 is to help make your family members happy. You have a depressed family, say Psalm 97 for them. Psalm 98, to make peace between people. Psalm 99, to help you come closer to Hashem, to return to him in truth, to move closer to keeping Torah. Psalm 100, for an easy labor and delivery, and for success against enemies. Psalm 101, a psalm to help you act properly towards Hashem. Going back to that whole idea of not being happy, which is a very big struggle. And by the way, somebody with clinical depression may have to start from a different place. Okay, this isn't a condemnation of anyone, God forbid, chas v'shalom. What it is this idea that we know that our goal is to be happy. And we need to learn all the different ways to get there. Tikkun Haklali every day is a good start, or at least once a week if you can't do it every day. Okay, Psalm 102 for help having children, for help in difficult times. And Psalm 103 is the same. And we're going to say 97 through 103. We're not going to say 32. And also, for those of you who don't have a Tikkun Haklali, I am going to type in the Psalms that we say for Tikkun Haklali. I don't want to miss them because I'm going to type very fast. So I'm looking from a list. I hope I got all 10. 1, 2, 3, 16, 30, 4. Yes. Okay. There you go. And then we're going to say Tikkun Haklali. All right. Let me turn off the recording.